That's like a pretty significant percentage of the population, and a lot of the times that's also people who are willing to go record it or say that they have experienced it. And so I think that also doesn't account for a larger part of the population here at Queen's.
While sexual violence education and prevention strategies are a priority for Queen's, the 2021 SHIFT survey shows that only half of the students who completed the survey were aware of the confidential resources like advocacy and counseling that are available for survivors of sexual violence. Only 30% of student respondents said that they had received any information or training about sexual violence or bystander intervention. So we decided to talk to a group of fourth-year students about their experiences with and perspectives on gender-based and sexual violence-related resources at Queen's. I know what people mean when they say gender-based and sexual violence.
My understanding of gender and sexual-based violence is really any act that is violent in any way, whether it be verbal, physical, psychological, toward another person because of their gender identity or their sexual orientation. That's kind of my understanding of it.
So I would somewhat agree because I know the concept of gender-based and sexual violence, but I didn't know what it encompasses before Dylan explained it, so now I would change my answer. Hi, my name is Calvin. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a fourth-year nursing student here at Queen's, and my favorite cafe in Kingston is the Elm Cafe.
I'm confident in my friend's understanding of gender-based and sexual violence.
Yeah, I think I surround myself with a lot of people that are a part of marginalized groups and have experienced some type of this violence or have heard about it on any media. So I think I've surrounded myself with a group of people that would fully understand this.
Gender-based and sexual violence is a prominent issue at Queen's University.
Well, I chose strongly agree. I read somewhere that there's like a statistic where over 70% of Queen's students have experienced gender-based sexual violence at one point in their undergrad career, and that's like a pretty significant percentage of the population, and a lot of the times that's also people who are willing to go record it or say that they have experienced it. And so I think that also doesn't account for a larger part of the population here at Queen's. So I would strongly agree. There's also like a large racialized population who experience like an increased amount as well. And so I would strongly agree.
I can say, like, speaking from my own experience, being someone who doesn't identify within the gender binary, and I like to express my gender in a variety of ways, wearing more feminine clothing, wearing skirts, wearing dresses, and I tend to avoid that on campus because when I have, I experience a lot of uncomfortable comments, uncomfortable gazes. I avoid wearing it to any of like the Kingston student bars because I've had negative experiences already with the bouncers not being respectful of queer people and not letting you in or being unjust toward you because of your identity. So I find that in general in Kingston, I don't like to express myself because I've experienced a lot of uncomfortable situations and potentially dangerous situations. So I'm Dylan. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm in my fourth year of nursing here at Queen's. And I would say my favorite coffee shop in Kingston has to be Coffee Way, not for the coffee, but for the donuts for sure.
So I said somewhat agree, but I'd probably want to change my answer even just based off what other people have said. Because I've definitely experienced sexual violence, but I didn't know how much of the population at Queen's had experienced that. And I feel like it's not discussed very much. It's terrible to hear that it's affecting so much of our population here. Hi, my name is Sydney Pinto. I'm in my 4th year of Queen's Nursing. I go by she, her pronouns, and my favorite coffee shop is Crave.
I think I wrote somewhat disagree because on personal experience, I haven't know anyone or person experienced anything to do with gender-based or sexual violence, and I don't think I was kept in the loop with the statistics of Queen's University. So, in my personal opinion, it wasn't a problem. But after hearing those statistics from the others, just as Sydney said, I think I would change my answer.
I have received information or training at school about sexual violence or bystander intervention. Okay, go for it.
Yeah, so by the nature of the position that I have at Queen's, I work in the student experience office. I know myself and my coworkers have gotten a lot of training on things related to sexual and gender-based violence. Also having people who specifically work in that in the office. But I know that if I didn't have that kind of position, if I didn't work in this office with the kinds of people that I work with, I definitely would not have gotten this level of training. And I think for the average Queen student, I don't think they are kind of getting that training or maybe wouldn't know about a lot of the resources that we have kind of related to that. So, yeah. Hi, my name is Stefanie. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm in my 4th year of health sciences here at Queen's. And my favorite coffee shop in Kingston would have to be Crave.
I can speak as one of the many Queen's Nursing students on this little panel here. But we have a certain level of trauma training, I guess. The bystander aspect, we talk a lot about that when I was a CAPE, so an orientation leader. We discussed that a little bit because you are supposed to be there for those first-year students, so being that person to intervene is really important. I feel like even within nursing, I feel like we don't cover as much as we should what to do in certain situations, even though we are with vulnerable populations all the time who have experienced these things. But to a certain degree, I feel like from the average individual, we do have a lot more training and just even work with active listening and all these other communication skills and just support skills that the average person might not. So I am grateful for that.
Well, I've never been involved in orientation or any really leadership positions here at Queen's. I'm part of clubs, I'm part of a sports team, but I feel like a lot of the times, we already mentioned, a lot of the training that we do receive is for people that are equipped to deal with orientation or first years. And then after that, you don't really have any other approaches or information to these kinds of things. And my personal experience learning about these things, but trauma-informed care and response, those have all have been kind of my own research or things we discuss in class rather than formal trainings, even in things like Queen's athletics and clubs like that. Yeah.
My friends and I have conversations about healthy relationships and consent.
Yeah, so I feel like me and my friends, we always chat about what's going on in our personal lives. And through a lot of, again, media, I would say we've learned what is good and what is bad, what is toxic, what is acceptable. And I think we chat about that a lot. We haven't had any bad experiences, so I'm very happy about that. But we always keep tabs on each other. And so it's a very open topic in my friend group. Hi, my name is Matt. I'm in 4th year environmental biology, and my favorite coffee shop would have to be Tea Room because I work there.
I agree with what you said. I think I have a similar experience. However, a lot of my friends have experienced a lot of bad things. But but it's important to have those supports so we're able to easily talk about what's acceptable in a relationship and what's not. And it's, sad that I share so many of those experiences with my friends.
Yeah, kind of similarly to you, like myself and my friends have been in some like negative situations, have had some like unhealthy relationship dynamics. So it's something that just with how close me and my friends are, that's something that gets talked about, which I'm very thankful for. So then it can kind of be that way to like vent to each other, just like get that off our chests, but also make sure that, like we're keeping each other updated on, what's going on, sort of avoiding those situations from happening in the future, and just knowing that if there was a situation for myself or my friends that was, not good for us, then we'd be there to kind of help each other navigate that. And yeah.
I would feel comfortable responding to a disclosure of sexual violence. 3, 2, 1.
So I said strongly agree because I have been through the experience of sexual violence, and I feel like personal experience is the best way to help and teach others, and just be there to support someone and have that empathy about the situation that someone who had not been through that situation may not have, or to the extent. And I feel like I've been through the steps of needing to go to the hospital and go to student wellness and talk to the counselors and use the resources so I know what options are available to someone who has been experiencing that. So I think that's why I said strongly agree.
So I went with strongly agree because thankfully I have had some training around this just from being involved with working at camp, with O-Week activities, and working with younger individuals. I got some training on how to respond, and I do have experience responding to a situation where someone disclosed something to me, and I found that I really had to, once I had provided the support that I could, I also had to kind of debrief with myself and think about how that experience and how that discussion, how I could change the way that I do it next time, or how I could be more understanding, or how I can be more supportive in some way. So I did a lot of kind of internal reflection after that to think about how I can improve in the future and how I can also protect my own emotions.
Yeah, so initially I put strongly agree, and I guess I was thinking from a friend perspective. If my friends were ever to come up to me, I'd be willing 100% to support them, whatever the topic was. And then I changed my mind because I've never really experienced this kind of discussion in a professional setting. So I might need a bit more further training, and I would probably feel a bit less comfortable.
I was really teetering between like agree and somewhat agree because I mentioned previously in the other questions, I don't have a lot of training about these sort of things. I think I could be like a good friend and like be able to listen and care the way like a good friend would be able to. But with conversations like these, I don't know how relevant being a good friend or how helpful it can be. And so that's why like I'm always open and like will be like there for my friends, for anyone like if they wanted to share their experiences, but I don't know how well equipped I am. And so that's why I'm kind of teetering between like agree and somewhat agree. Hi, I'm Serena. My pronouns are she, her. I'm in 4th year health studies, and my favorite coffee shop is Balzac's.
Yeah, this question was a bit like weird for me to answer because I feel like given the amount of training that I've had on these kinds of topics, I should be at like the strongly agree point, but I haven't had someone disclose something like that to me before. So I feel like it's a similar thing of, like kind of navigating that sort of discussion in a more like professional way versus if it's just with a friend. applying all of the tools that I've learned about actually in practice versus just reading about it, especially when there are some resources that like I haven't used myself. So I would feel a little bit uncomfortable just referring someone somewhere when, you know, I haven't used that resource before. So yeah.
Before showing up here, I thought maybe one of the questions we'd be asked was like, do you happen to know any resources off the top of your head? And my answer to that personally would be not many. When I first came here to Queens, I was pretty stressed, and I got like a mini therapy session through, I'm not sure what resource. I found that a bit helpful, but honestly lacking. And then, like I said, I would be hard-pressed to mention any other resources available to this specific case.
I agree, actually. When I came to Queens, I definitely didn't know about many of the resources, and I've made use of quite a few of the resources at Queens and through student wellness. But I definitely think there is resources lacking. I think like the mental health aspect that comes with these important issues is difficult, and people don't know exactly how to help in some situations, and it's not always the top priority, but I think it really should be for students, because so many of these issues are so prominent in this age group. And there are a couple resources, and they are wonderful, and lots of the people are wonderful and supportive, but just more should be here, and more should be discussed regarding the things available to the students, because we're not entirely aware of what's available to us, if there are things available to us. So yeah.
It can be difficult for someone to share their experience of sexual violence. Knowing they'll be believed and supported without judgment can have an impact on whether they access the supports available to them.
Listen to, validate, and believe them. Ask your friend what they need. Don't make assumptions.
Also make sure to maintain their confidentiality, continue to support and care for your friend, know there's no timeline for healing, and know your limits.
Did you know that there are actually quite a few resources available both here on campus at Queen's University and in the Kingston community, available to both survivors and peers? If you're looking for campus resources, training, or counseling services, Sexual Violence Prevention and Response Services is the place to go. If you're looking for community resources or a 24-hour crisis line, the Sexual Assault Center of Kingston is the place to be. Finally, if you're looking for a step-by-step support hub, Vesta for Campus is an extremely helpful resource.